afternoon, all of you again. So we'll now start talking on chapter 7, services, and we will go again with main topics in it. So survey begins by saying that services becoming the main driver of growth in global economy. Global economy, mind you. For India, it is the main driver, but globally also we see that services are becoming more main driver because goods trades are stagnating because of supply chain disruptions, the wars and the container prices rising and geopolitical tensions, so all that is disrupting the goods price values, but service is growing pretty well overall. So that is one. Then when we talk about service trade is expanding digitally, remote delivery, the logistical challenges are less, inter-country movement is easier, so that is where services do better. India of course has followed a service-led path, which is quite interesting. अगर आप तुम्हें याद हो क्लास में तुम्हें सिखाता भी हूँ that why India did not go with manufacturing, why India had a service-led growth. So you go back to those notes and you will see that we have a complete reason analyzed as to why manufacturing has not done so well in India compared to services. And there, if you recall, we had also discussed what can be done in manufacturing to make things go better. Then of course they contribute 50% of gross value added and now grow steadily at 7 to 8% annually, making them a stable, low volatility growth regime. Now India is the 7th largest service exporter. India's share is now 4.3% in service exports, and service is the largest recipient of FDI. Almost 80% of FDI that India receives is in services. So they're big recipient, IT services, ITES, consultancy, big recipients of FDI. Now, what are the challenges that we see in services? One is skill gap. We need to train ourselves and retrain ourselves much better because rapid technological change हो रहा है. Then there are global restrictions. The data localization rules are coming in, remittance rules are coming in, movements are being obstructed. So that is another challenge that we see. And then there is need for faster adaptation by firms and workers. Think, जैसे हमने news सुना ना, that artificial intelligence will make sure that many Indian companies and many workers in Indian companies who are giving some lower end work in services sector like IT might become unemployed because that work will be done by AI. So the companies also will have to adapt faster, will have to retrain their workers to take advantage of the changing global scenario. Then of course, if you look at post-pandemic structural shifts, contact-based services like tourism, transport have been hit, but digital services like IT, etc., finance, etc., has been going up. Now, this shift increased the share of services in global GDP, as digital services are high-valued services. So if you look at the movies, or if you look at even the digital typecasts, so you will see that generally digital services जो हैं उनकी valuation बढ़ी है. और इसके वजह से डिजिटल सर्विसेज का रोल बढ़ने की वजह से सर्विस सेक्टर का रोल ओवरऑल ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी में बढ़ने लगा है. लेकिन ये देखा गया है कि पिछले कुछ सालों में इन द लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स ड्यू टू वीक ग्लोबल डिमांड एंड वीक ट्रेड एंड प्रोडक्टिविटी डिक्लाइन द ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ सर्विसेज हैज बिकम लेसर. व्हाट इज इंडिया लुकिंग एट? So India has seen a stronger shift in services. Service sector share in GDP has been continuously rising. Now it's around 54%. Growth remains resilient, and India's service sector is showing some exemplary growth here. Now I've given you a chart here which Economic Survey gives. If you look at the countries, if you see, this is the deviation from pre-COVID level, and India has the least deviation from pre-COVID level. The pre-COVID growth rate was high, of course. Post-COVID, there are many challenges all over the world, but India's decline has been much lesser compared to what many other countries have observed, especially if you look at China or if you look at United States, the decline is quite prominent. Then, of course, if we look at capital flows and trade, service trade share in GDP is rising now globally post-pandemic. In fact, I told you in the previous chapter, $387 billion is India's service exports, and this year we are expected to touch $400 billion. So service exports from India is growing at a very fast pace, and we have also seen that our trade has grown at an even faster pace than the advanced economy. So see, apart from United Kingdom, which has been growing at a faster pace, India's growth rate has been one of the highest, if you would see. So that is again a positive sign for India. Then of course, if you look at global investment, now services account for more than half of global FDI. मैंने इंडिया के बारे में आपको बता ही रखा है कि almost 80% of FDI services से आते हैं. अब कहाँ services concentrated है? Energy and gas, information and communication, transport and infrastructure. In India, it is mainly information and communication. Prelims के point of view से ये याद रखोगे. Globally, energy and gas, information, communication, transport, infrastructure. In India, it is information, communication, and then finance, and then transport. तो यहाँ कुछ FDI आया है, लेकिन इंडिया का सीक्वेंस ये होगा. Of course, it's focusing on energy security. एक और भी renewable energy. India में भी renewable energy. We have had some investments at a high level. Okay, so energy security, digitalization, and supply chains is where services growth is. There, see, India's experience, 80% of total FDI inflows in India are service sector. Major sectors, IT, finance, trading, professional services like accountancy, legal, medical, and energy and gas. So 89% of services FDI is concentrated in digital, skill intensive and infrastructure linked sectors. ये important figure है. India के point of view से जो numbers हैं उनको याद रखोगे. Then of course, if we go further, trends in India's service sector performance. So when we look at this, the share in GDP increased to 54% almost in the first half of 26, and services GVA grew 9.3% this year's first half. This year it is expected to grow 9% overall. Service has been a big engine of growth in this year for India. And if we see key drivers, finance is a big driver, real estate is another driver, professional services, especially, accounting, legal, and medical. These are becoming big drivers. Public administration and defense due to government expenditure riding. The contact-based services like trade, hospitality, transport are going on a slow recovery mode. Also, the war and all has meant tourism is suffering. Logistical challenges have meant that trading has not picked up as much. Shipping has been suffering. So automatically these are showing low phase of growth, but others are showing high phase nevertheless. In India's case, the good news is that tier 2, tier 3 cities are also doing good in services compared to what they were doing last year. Then if we see state and sector level dynamics, the Niti report we see. So the services are accounting for 30% of total employment. तो service sector में 30% employment है. Manufacturing और construction जिनको ज़्यादा employment intensive माना जाता है, वहाँ 11-12% ही अभी employed हैं. But this lower employment, 11.7% in manufacturing and around 12.9% in construction, is a result of lack of ability to expand these sectors. It is not a result of services doing great only. It is a result of our inability to expand these sectors also. Survey ये बात नहीं कहते, but हमें समझना चाहिए. We can create many more jobs in manufacturing provided we focus on textile, footwear, food processing, toys, furniture. उधर हमारा focus नहीं है. वो अभी भी unorganized sector में ज़्यादातर है. Micro small sector में ज़्यादातर है. So we need medium scale industries there. Similarly, in construction, we need to focus more on affordable housing. We need to focus better on interconnectivity projects. We need to focus better on construction in port area. Again, if we focus on that, a lot more employment can be generated. If you look at national highways in India, they do great. But if you look at state highways, local roads, district roads, they don't do that great. Similarly, if you look at high-end housing in India, they are growing high, a lot of new announcements, but if you look at lower income housing, affordable housing, they're not doing that great. So I think India has to pull its socks up, और अगर यहाँ अच्छा करे तो बेहतर होगा. इन चीज़ों पे वर्क करने की ज़रूरत है. कारण अगर less people are employed here, it's not because of only the reason that more people are loving working in services. It's also because of less opportunities here. Also within services, a lot of employment is in the lower end services. Lower end services like newspaper vendors, vegetable vendors, lower end services like cobblers, carpenters. So we are not having upper end services. Everybody is not an IT engineer. Everybody is not a digital, content developer. Everybody is not a doctor. Everybody is not a, lawyer. So that is again somewhere India has to buckle up better. Employment elasticity over 11 to 24 stood at 0.43. अब ये employment elasticity का मतलब क्या हुआ? इसका मतलब है percentage change in employment due to percentage change in GDP. कि आप जीडीपी के चेंज होने के बाद एम्प्लॉयमेंट पे क्या असर है? नाउ अगेन इट इज हायर इन सर्विसेज देन एग्रीकल्चर एंड देन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. अगेन इट्स मिसलीडिंग स्लाइटली. Manufacturing, it is low because of our poor labor laws, because of poor entrepreneurial culture, because of missing middle in India. Medium scale enterprises are missing. In agriculture, it is low due to low productivity, lack of capacity to absorb workers in it, lack of food processing industry developing at the rate at which it should go. तो अगर आप मुझसे पूछिए तो ये reflection of India's poor structure है, rather than showing that services are actually outpacing others. All right, then there is better job quality. Of course, that one can agree that there 51% jobs are regular jobs, which is not seen in the other sectors. The paradox is that there is high growth in modern services, जो मैं आपको बता रहा था, but limited job creation, and most jobs are in the lower value sectors like trade, hospitality, and transportation. Then of course we see that there are structural shifts. So IT has been expanding rapidly. GVA share in services doubled to 12% by 2024. Prelims के point of view से याद रखोगे, जो लोग इकोनॉमिक सर्विसेज और ऑप्शनल की तैयारी कर रहे हो इकोनॉमिक्स में, ये डेटा पॉइंट्स ऐड कर लो हमेशा. इफ यू गेट एक्सप्लिसिट क्वेश्चन टू एनालाइज सर्विस ग्रोथ इन इंडिया, then talk about what is employment contribution of services, which sector is contributing more in employment, what is export contribution of services, what kind of challenges service sector faces. ये अपने notes बना के रख लोगे अगर, you will be able to deliver much better in the exam. Economic services and optional वालों के लिए ये कह रहा हूँ. The traditional sectors like trade and business services are dominant, 20% each, and some sectors like transport, telecom, travel saw relative decline, but then telecom decline is mostly because of a very high base. Travel, of course, has suffered because, as I told you, with global skirmishes. Transport is suffering again because of global skirmishes. Shipping and foreign services are majorly responsible. The output is massively concentrated in Karnataka, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Telangana. The four states comprise 40%, driven by urbanization, IT hubs, finance, and professional services. The lesson is also that modern service oriented states also show relatively higher growth rate. Modern service oriented states show relatively higher growth rate. If we see Bihar, 59% is in services but low value services, meaning weak structural transformation and lack of good quality industrialization. This is what Bihar is missing on. So if somebody has to make a policy for Bihar, the focus should be on, again, labor intensive industry to be developed, and services of better end, like financial services can do better in Bihar given the population, given the scope. The logistical services can do very well in Bihar, transport especially. Trading can do well. So Bihar can operate here, but then remember, if 59% income is coming from services and the state's total income is 69,000 per annum rupees, which is Bihar's situation, while India's average income is 2,20,000 rupees per annum, that shows that even services are of lower end, and that needs to be worked upon. Kerala has higher share, but it relies on traditional sectors, tourism, trade, real estate. Odisha and Assam are showing a decline in services, but that is mainly because of tourism falling, because of transportation falling, that we see this decline. Then if we see urban and social dimension, service sector is urban centric, 60% urban workers are in services, less than 20% in rural areas. Again, this is due to missing manufacturing. We don't need to we don't need to hire, get people in rural areas involved in services immediately. रूरल एरिया के लोगों के लिए ज़रूरी है कि एग्रीकल्चर से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में ट्रांजिशन करें, नहीं तो इसका नतीजा ये हो रहा है that 46% of our labor force, workforce is still in agriculture, which is quite a high number, but that's due to lack of manufacturing. So if we can promote manufacturing in rural areas with comparatively better quality output, especially in sectors like textile, footwear, food processing, and so on, furniture, and so on, I think rural areas can give us very good growth also. Then of course we look at gender disparities. So think, Only 10.5% women in rural areas are engaged in services, which is again because most of them are in agriculture or doing household chores. So if we talk about inclusivity in high skill segment, we see that women are earning much better in information and communication, but again this is due to movie and fashion industry. So this should not be confused with an all industry phenomena. अभी भी बहुत industries ऐसी हैं जैसे transportation, taxi driving and all, auto driving and all, services like accountancy, services like law, services like medical professional. We still see that males are dominating and women are still catching up, which needs to be corrected over a period. Teaching is another example, especially professional teaching like what we guys do. We still see lesser women candidates and more male candidates and so on. So if you ask me, the discussion here when they say in urban areas this is the transformation, well, it's a long distance to go, even in healthcare if you ask me. Now ये difference नजर आता है mainly because of the nursing staff playing its role, you know. Then if we talk about further things, in urban employment, we see that urban employment, 62% of urban jobs are almost in services, and formal job creation strong with almost 52% people in services. The PMI services index average 50, and the PMI index क्या है? It is interview of managers with respect to their order books, and greater than 50% optimistic, it means their order books are filled and they are going to expand investment. Less than 50% pessimistic, it means their order books are showing less growth and they may contract in future. So we see that 10-year average is more than 50%, new businesses more than 50%. Overall, if you see, we are touching almost 58.9%, but exports are going down with Trump's tribulations. So domestic demand is playing a big role, new business flows are rising, exports are expanding but slowing down in growth. Bank credit to services are rising, now they are at 12.4% in October-November 25, mainly because non-banking financial companies are lending recovery. Also, lending for infrastructure, एक change आया है इंडिया में कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लोन्स पहले बैंक से लिए जाते थे, रोड, पोर्ट्स, आजकल नॉन बैंकिंग फाइनेंशियल कंपनीज से ज्यादा लिए जा रहे हैं. देन सिमिलरली डिमांड फॉर रिटेल एंड एमएसएमईज, दैट इज ऑफ कोर्स राइजिंग, स्पेशली एमएसएमईज विद द क्रेडिट गारंटी ट्रस्ट system, and then momentum in tourism, hospitality and trade sectors. Again, in tourism there are multiple programs launched by the government. Automatically when tourism does well, hospitality does well, land clearance is done faster, permissions for credit is given faster. So formalization is happening at a faster pace, leading to better service growth. Then of course we look at credit growth here. So if you see, the chart is very well matching. You know, in fact, यहाँ पर अगर आप देखें तो service sector has done better than overall growth in bank credit to services. But otherwise, if you see, the chart is very well matching itself with bank credit growing at a faster pace. Service exports, as I told you, have become a major growth pillar. अब prelims के point of view से एक ये बात याद रखोगे, pre-COVID 7.4% per annum grow कर रहा था, but 9.7% पे है 23 to 25 and 10% in this year. In fact, overall growth this year has been 9.9%. So automatically, goods trade weak, globally weak है, acts as a buffer, also buffer to keep India's current account deficit in control. ये हमेशा याद रखेंगे आप. Then of course, if we look at growth trends, growth more than doubled. The last 3 years, growth has been 14%. That's massive. And of course, this year it has moderated, but still above pre-COVID levels. Then software services have 40% and above share, remain the main driver, and then demand for digital services is pushing them further, and professional and consulting services 18%. तो याद क्या रखोगे? Maximum contribution software, then professional and management, followed by transportation. ये service के 1, 2, 3 हैं. Software and digital, प्रोफेशनल सर्विसेज, देन ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड कंसल्टेशन, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी लिख सकते हैं वो अगर रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी को भी डाल दिया तो आप ये टॉप 3 याद रखेंगे. ऑफ कोर्स सॉफ्टवेयर and digital and professional and consultancy together cover 65% of exports, so that itself is a massive contribution. तो इंडिया के सर्विसेज एक्सपोर्ट में सबसे ज्यादा रोल कौन प्ले कर रहा है? सॉफ्टवेयर सर्विसेज, प्रोफेशनल एंड मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टेंसी. Service is a very important point. Future growth will depend on diversification and moving up the value chain. जैसा मैं आपको थोड़ी देर पहले बता रहा था, रूटीन वर्क करेंगे तो जो हमारे आईटी सेक्टर गेन कर रहे हैं वो लूज हो जाएगा. सो रूटीन वर्क वोंट गिव अस फ्यूचर जॉब्स विद AI. So we will have to focus more on new languages, new large language models created. We will have to focus on AI based development. We will have to focus on new kind of focused focused training based development where our workers are trained to perform better. Then of course when we look at AI and India's services exports, इस पे सर्वे ने एक बॉक्स किया है. तो पहला उन्होंने कहा कि टू वे रिलेशनशिप है between AI innovation and trade. टू वे रिलेशन मतलब AI promotes innovation and trade promotes AI innovation. So AI is reshaping global services trade by reducing trade costs, advantage of AI, boosting productivity, advantage of AI, while trade accelerates AI diffusion by taking AI to different nooks and corners of the world. So that means both of them have a symbiotic relation. AI could increase trade by 34 to 37% by 2040 and digitally deliverable services growing even faster. ये World Trade Report है. Now India has an advantage because we have a huge information technology and business process management ecosystem. Since pre-2000 days, and AI talent in India is growing. In fact, we have been ranked by Stanford Index as the second largest economy with AI preparation. Plus, largest rise in AI talent is also what Stanford AI Index presents. So AI intensive services like software, business, financial grew 40% faster than less AI export services. और हम शेयर मार्केट में भी देख रहे हैं कि जिन देशों में शेयर मार्केट में ज्यादा AI का प्रेजेंस है वहां पे ग्रोथ रिलेटिवली ज्यादा है एज कंपेयर टू मार्केट जहां AI का प्रेजेंस कम है. तो ये एक देखने को मिल रहा है कि अगर हम देखें तो AI is playing its own role in making sure that things grow faster. Then of course we look at trade agreements and services. So trade policy is increasingly central to expanding service exports. So India UK a comprehensive economic trade agreement, market access has been given to 137 service subsectors. Mutual recognition agreements have happened for professions, nursing, accountancy, architecture, etc. In fact, UK has allowed that our professionals, almost 20,000 per annum, can go to UK with a very less visa restriction. So that is again a good thing for India. Social security coordination through double contribution convention. Double contribution convention क्या है? If somebody is already paying for provident fund contribution in India, they won't have to pay that in UK. Otherwise क्या होता था, हमारे बहुत workers वहां जाते थे and they used to lose provident fund contributions. और जब वो इंडिया आते थे तो उन्हें मिलता नहीं था क्योंकि वो तो मिलेगा रिटायरमेंट पर, रिटायरमेंट के तो पहले ही वो आएंगे. So that used to make people lose a lot of money. Now of course that will be saved. And digitally delivered services, mode 1 of GATS, IT consultancy, etc. and commercial presence abroad under mode 3. Mode 1 होता है जिसमें कि आप खुद बाहर नहीं जा रहे, आपकी सर्विस एक्सपोर्ट हो रही है, तो IT आता है उसमें. और मोड 3 होता है जिसके अंदर में आपका अपना ऑफिस वहां होगा, जैसे लॉयर का ऑफिस हो गया या डॉक्टर का ऑफिस हो गया या कोई फिल्म प्रोडक्शन कंपनी ने अपनी ऑफिस खोल ली. तो इन सब को लेकर हमारा यूके के साथ अग्रीमेंट हुआ है which can promote more and more service growth. Similarly in Oman we have 127 service subsectors including IT, R&D, etc. Improved mode 4 mobility where I am a lawyer, I go out in Oman, I do the practice, I come back. So I'm not shifting my office there, I'm shifting myself over there for a month or so, come back. That's mode 4 in services. UPSC ने prelims में पूछ रखा है mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, mode 4. अगर तुम्हें याद हो क्लास में मैं आपको सिखाता भी था ये. Then allows 100% FDI by Indian firms in services in Oman. This will allow Indian firms to establish their offices in Oman, will allow India to then earn income by doing business with Oman in service sector. It promotes high value jobs and outward expansion of Indian firms. Then India EFTA, with the European Free Trade Agreement, we have this TEPA with them. Again, digital delivery, mode 1, mode 3 and mode 4. Again, we have large presence and large talks with them on this. And this will help us in boosting exports in IT, education, movies, theater and so on. Of course, this will also open opportunities in professional services. Then when we look at state capacity, again, you will see a factor here. मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ग्रोथ में लॉजिस्टिक्स की ज़रूरत पड़ती है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की ज़रूरत पड़ती है, गुड गवर्नेंस की ज़रूरत पड़ती है, कमोडिटी को प्रोटेक्ट करने की ज़रूरत पड़ती है, तो उनका डिसिप्लिनिंग इफेक्ट होता है. लेकिन सर्विसेज में इनकी ज़रूरत उतनी नहीं है. आई डोंट नीड ट्रांसपोर्टेशन एंड ऑल, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सपोर्ट ऑफ स्टोरेज हाउसेज एंड ऑल, तो इसका कम इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है. सिमिलरली इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, वंस पीपल हैव एंटर्ड योर कंट्री, दे कांट लीव इमीडिएटली, बट इन सर्विसेज पीपल शिफ्ट वेरी क्विकली फ्रॉम वन स्टेट टू अनदर और वन कंट्री टू अनदर. ऑल्सो इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग the communication links and all should be well established. In services, people tend to have workers movement. I mean, in manufacturing, you need workers to move much more. In services, you don't need them to move much more. So, service का export बढ़ने पर भी country के internal structure उतना ठीक हो जरूरी नहीं. उसी पर मैंने आपको ये पूरा सिस्टम दिया है. जैसे देखिए, firms selective, not system forcing. तो service firms like IT can succeed despite weak infrastructure. Similarly, exit without voice. They can operate offshore. किसी को इंडिया में भी बिजनेस करना है, वो यूके से कर लेंगे, यूएई से कर लेंगे, तो गवर्नमेंट पे इंप्रूवमेंट का प्रेशर नहीं होता. वीक मैक्रो लिंकेजेस, सर्विस एक्सपोर्ट्स आर लेस एम्प्लॉयमेंट इंटेंसिव, इन्फ्लेशन को कम अफेक्ट करते हैं, and it does not create macro or employment pressure. Skill based competitiveness, so they believe in human capital. तो अब जैसे इंडिया को ही ले लीजिए, if some amount of human capital is there, then service exports can be giving you some returns, and majority of the humans can in the process be deprived. And then of course, so in India's case, strong global service exports coexist with weak institutional capacity. And what is the implication? That service exports can act as a pressure valve. कि लोगों के पैसे बढ़ रहे हैं, बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट बढ़ रहा है, अमीर लोगों की इनकम ज्यादा है, तो लोग प्रेशर भी नहीं बनाते गवर्नमेंट पे कि भाई इंप्रूव करो स्ट्रक्चर को. इसीलिए जरूरी है कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक्सपोर्ट्स को सीरियसली लिया जाए, इनके स्ट्रक्चरल रिफॉर्म्स की तरफ देखा जाए और ओवरऑल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को डेवलप करने पे फोकस किया जाए. Then of course we go further. Servification of manufacturing is happening. Now what is servification of manufacturing? Embedding services with manufacturing. For example, designing linked to manufacturing. Designing is service, but linked to manufacturing. For example, advertisements linked to manufacturing, dealership networks linked to manufacturing, repair and maintenance linked to manufacturing. So servification of manufacturing is happening at a tremendous rate, like smart devices where value comes from software ecosystems, medical equipment and wearables linked to diagnostics, automobiles evolving into software on wheels. ये सब examples हैं of servification of manufacturing. So, in Indian evidence, we see that services contribute 1/3 of manufacturing export value. इसीलिए जरूरी क्या है कि हम सर्विस और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के कॉम्बिनेशन पे काम करें. जैसे डिजिटल वॉच, it may measure my heartbeat, so it can be connect, may measure my pulses, and it can be connected to my my healthcare service provider. So servification of manufacturing can happen like that. 30% of export values in sectors like electronics, machineries, metals comes from services. Higher service intensity is linked to greater productivity. That is important. Higher service intensity. जिस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में भी सर्विस इंटेंसिटी ज्यादा है, वहां प्रोडक्टिविटी ज्यादा है, एक्सपोर्ट ओरिएंटेशन ज्यादा है. सो दिस इज अबाउट व्हाई सर्विफिकेशन इज बिकमिंग important even in manufacturing, and with value concentrated in design, R&D, logistics, after sales, dealership and all. इसी के ऊपर एक concept है economics में जिसे बोलते हैं smile curve. Initial part, that is designing and R&D, this plays high value addition. Then pure manufacturing, the value addition falls, and then again dealership network, advertisement, all that plays high valuation. So countries will have to do better here. Only doing better here doesn't make you rich. So that is called the smile curve. That is very famously talked about in economics. So when we talk about servification of manufacturing, we will have to make sure that we also are not left behind the curve in all this progress. Then, in fact, it improves export participation, intensity and employment stability. Contribute 17. This is India servification importance. 17.7% of manufacturing export value. Then it shares share exceeds 20 to 25% in key sectors like electronics, metals, etc. So that is why it is important that even to enhance manufacturing, services are improved. So what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is only expanding services or only expanding manufacturing or only focusing on one of them is not the result. Result comes when you go for overall growth process development. Then of course we talk about subsectoral performance. Tourism is a big growth provider. Domestic tourism is the backbone, with visits rising 17.5% and 52.7% over previous year. International arrivals are rising in India. 20.57 million was the international arrival in India, but sochiye, Singapore, it is around 16 million. So you can imagine that India has a long distance to cover. Then of course foreign tourist arrivals remain weak due to global slowdown, and hotel occupancy of greater than 60% includes good demand. Tourism contributes 5. अब ये याद रखोगे, tourism पे question आएगा. अभी budget का एक lecture लूंगा मैं. In that budget lecture will be around 10th 11th of April or 12th of April, one of those days. आपको मैं budget का lecture खत्म करा दूंगा 10 से 11 12 April के बीच में. वहाँ बात करूंगा steps taken by government in budget also for tourism. I am expecting a question from tourism in this year's mains or next year's mains. So be very careful on tourism, steps taken by government, benefits of the sector, employment generation capacity of the sector, and so on. So it contributes 5.2% of GDP, and suppose 8.46 crore jobs, that 13.3% of total employment in India, and foreign exchange earnings are $35 billion, up 8.8%. Medical and wellness tourism is rising. We see that non-seasonal tourism है, ये high value tourism है. Non-seasonal मतलब इसका कोई season नहीं होगा, ये winters, summers, nature ये नहीं है. तबीयत खराब हुई लोग इंडिया आके इलाज कराएंगे, because India provides good quality healthcare at a cheaper rate. Shares in free trade agreements increased to 6.5%. तो free trade agreements का फायदा हो रहा है हमारे tourism को, especially medical tourism को, and market is projected to reach $16 billion by 2030. We'll see in Gujarat, we have seen infrastructure plus event-led model. Kerala, community-based sustainable tourism. Sikkim, ये examples की तरह याद रख लो. इसको case study बना के quote करना. Different states in India making efforts to promote tourism. Now what is the policy push? Focus on experience-based tourism. Swadesh Darshan, Prashad, promotion campaigns, Dekho Apna Desh, Incredible India, Udan connectivity. So domestic tourism is what government is focusing a lot on, because we know that the more people visit within India, more revenue generation can be there. So better quality facilities can be developed, and that in itself will be a big factor helping us in even international tourists being attracted to India. Then of course there is untapped potential. Ecotourism is something India can go for. जैसे आपको एक example देता हूँ, GPS tracking, homestays, eco lodges, coastal blue economy, yachting, launch a national marina policy government ने launch किया है. Employment generate करता है ये बहुत ज़्यादा. इसमें आपको एक example देता हूँ, जैसे if you look at Tehri Dam, on Tehri Dam we have the floating huts. अब मैं यहाँ full disclosure दे दूँ, these floating huts are run by a hotel chain which is owned by one of my students of the past, so that I am fully clear on disclosure. So Ishpreet, I'm sure you are listening to this. So floating huts, तो हम लोग मालदीव्स जाते हैं उन floating huts के लिए. टेहरी डैम जाएं, अपने देश में रेवेन्यू जनरेट होगा, वंडरफुल एक्सपीरियंस मिल सकता है. तो इनको प्रमोट करने की जरूरत है टू प्रमोट डोमेस्टिक टूरिज्म इन इंडिया विद गुड क्वालिटी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सपोर्ट. अदरवाइज टेहरी पहुंचते हुए लोगों को टाइम लगता है, एयर कनेक्टिविटी एंड ऑल इज वीक, तो वो उतना फेमस नहीं हो पा रहा जितना होना चाहिए गिवन द गुड सर्विसेज दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग. What is the way forward? Improve infrastructure, जैसा मैं बता रहा था, quality of service, so better training of the staff, and connectivity. Enable private participation everywhere government cannot provide the service, and digital integration. एक और चीज क्या जरूरत है? Better packaging. Connect religious tourism, language based tourism, cuisine based tourism, nature tourism, health tourism. पैकेज कीजिए कि आप क्यों इंडिया आना चाहते हैं, क्या मिलेगा भारत में आपको, या भारत के लोगों को क्या इंटरेस्ट है जिसके लिए वो कहीं जा सकते हैं. सो इफ दैट कैन बी डन, अगेन better off states like Karnataka, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Kerala, they are even better placed to improve it. Relatively less better off states like Bihar, Jharkhand, Assam, eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, they can attract people by again packaging themselves. And good part of services is employment for completely unskilled like porters, semi-skilled like cooks and drivers, and very skilled like tour operators, managers, and so on. Everybody gets a job. multiplier effect is huge, and that can help in improving the country's overall structure much more. IT and ITES, see, USD $283 billion revenue, 5.1% growth, export growth at 3.7%. Our IT exports, that's a very interesting thing, are earning around $190 billion, which is more than what Saudi Arabia earns by exporting oil. So if you compare the two, you will realize that we are at a influx, at a point of flux in our development strategies. Of course, other than that, the GCC-led structural transformation, global capability centers, इसकी बात आपसे मैं बहुत बार कर चुका हूँ. India has more than 1700 GCCs, 19 lakh employees, and up to 1900 plus GCCs हो गए हैं. After, in the last year, 200 more have increased. Largest concentration globally, 50% approximately of GCCs all over the world, approximately, slightly less than 50%, are in India. They are supporting roles to core functions, AI, engineering, cybersecurity, designing, welfare-oriented GCCs. Many of them are now in India, accounting-based GCCs, and they're expanding into tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So of course, the largest concentration is in Mumbai. The largest concentration is in Bengaluru. Bengaluru has the largest concentration of GCCs in India. But now we are moving towards Banaras. We are moving towards Mangalore. We are moving towards Kota. So that is also a good improvement we are having. And then of course, India is deepening integration into global value chains. Why? Because a lot of captive innovation happens through GCCs within India. Data centers are of course there. The capacity has risen from 1.4 gigawatt to 8 gigawatt is the target. India generates 20% global data, hosts only 3% data centers. So India needs to improve there. And you would have heard recently Microsoft and Apple, all of them have talked about setting up their data centers in Visakhapatnam, in Bengaluru, in Chennai. So we are in for some interesting time there. Energy intensity plus infrastructure gaps amid rising competition is the constraint. इसमें एक बात ध्यान रखिएगा, लोग कहते हैं डेटा सेंटर एस्टैब्लिश करने पे बहुत खर्चा होगा, पानी बहुत लगता है, तो पानी डेटा सेंटर पे ही क्यों बचाना चाहते हो? एक आप में से कोई मुझे YouTube के वीडियो में भी लिख रहे थे, सर आर यू फॉर रियल, आप डेटा सेंटर क्यों प्रमोट कर रहे हैं? भाई आर वी ऑल फॉर रियल? हम होस पाइप से गाड़ी धोते हैं, क्यों? उससे पानी बचाओ. हम पूरे रात पानी बहा देते हैं पंप सेट्स के थ्रू और फील्ड में पानी बर्बाद करते हैं, एग्रीकल्चरल फील्ड में, वहां पानी बचाओ. हम शावर के नीचे खड़े होकर नहाते हैं, वहां पानी बचाओ. अब कहते सर यहाँ कम खर्च होता है, 1-2 आदमी करते हैं. 100 करोड़ लोग जब इस तरह से पानी खर्च करते हैं तो बहुत ज्यादा पानी खर्च होता है. रिसाइकिल करो वाटर को, रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग पे ध्यान दो, पानी बचाओ, राइस को कम ग्रो करो, शुगर केन को कम ग्रो करो, और वाटर इंटेंसिव क्रॉप को छोड़कर लेस वाटर इंटेंसिव क्रॉप की तरफ जाओ. तो हम पानी बचा कर क्यों नहीं डेटा सेंटर लगा सकते? और एक तरफ कहते हैं डेटा सेंटर इंडिया में मत लगाओ, और फिर कहते हैं कि इंडिया में डेटा नहीं है, हमारा डेटा लोकलाइज करो, बाहर क्यों जा रहा है? I think we should grow up. Development you cannot stop by remaining Neolithic in the Neolithic phase or in the Neanderthal stage. You have to promote development by finding out what are the other sources where I can save money, I can save my resource, and then how do I promote? Go for more afforestation, go for more water saving mechanisms, promote more rainwater harvesting in even urban areas of India, which we are hardly doing. Promote more rainwater harvesting in rural areas. Check dams to be promoted. अपने aquifers को recharge होने दीजिए. जो tanks हैं, irrigation canals हैं, उनकी siltation खत्म कीजिए, cleanliness बनाइए, seepages रोकिए, ताकि irrigation में पानी बचाया जा सके. लोगों को एजुकेट कीजिए कि पानी का एक बूंद भी फेंकिए मत, नहाने में पानी मत वेस्ट करिए, पीने में पानी फेंकिए. हम आधा ग्लास पी के आधा ग्लास फेंकते हैं. सोचिए अगर आधे ग्लास में 200 मिलीलीटर पानी भी है और 1 करोड़ लोग ये काम रोज करते हैं, तो आप सोचिए कितना पानी फेंक दिया हमने बस टू द ग्राउंड, डूइंग नथिंग. नहाइए मत पंप सेट के अंदर खड़े होकर, ये बातों से पानी बचाइए. सो प्लीज बी फॉर रियल एंड प्लीज मेक श्योर दैट डोंट प्रोहिबिट डेवलपमेंट, प्रोहिबिट वेस्टेज. Data centers don't waste water, and if data centers need water for cooling, we can arrange for that. We are not a water scarce country. We have made ourselves water scarce by mismanaging water and wrong choice of living style and wrong choice of food and wrong choice of mechanisms of life. अगर मुझसे पूछो, मैं तो वेजिटेरियन हूँ, मैं तो एक और व्यू ले लूंगा, भाई नॉन वेज फूड कम खाइए, वाटर यूसेज कम हो जाता है. So anyways, just joking on the last part. ये इससे मैं इसके फेवर में नहीं हूँ, मेरे फैमिली में बाकी सब लोग नॉन वेज हैं. I have to go back home in the evening. But jokes apart, मजाक छोड़ के अगर बात करूं तो ये मत सोचिए कि डेटा सेंटर का ही पानी बचेगा तो पानी बचेगा. जो वेस्टेजेस है उसे कंट्रोल करिए और टेक्नोलॉजी से मत लड़िए, टेक्नोलॉजी बुलडोज कर देती है, या आप पिछड़ जाते हैं और बाकी के देश आगे निकल जाते हैं। यही हरकतें इंडिया में हुई, इसीलिए साउथ कोरिया हमसे पीछे था, आगे निकल गया, जापान पीछे था, आगे निकल गया, चाइना पीछे था, आगे निकल गया, सिंगापुर पीछे था, आगे निकल गया, ब्राजील पीछे था, आगे निकल गया, और हम अपना रोना रोते रहते हैं, हम तो विश्वगुरु थे फर्स्ट सेंचुरी एडी में। आगे बढ़िए, डेवलपमेंट को प्रमोट करिए, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट को, सस्टेनेबिलिटी ढूंढिए, लेकिन ये मत कहिए ग्रोथ ही नहीं होने दूंगा, नई टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं आने दूंगा, मैं अपने पुराने ओल्ड नियंडरथल लाइफ में जीऊंगा, गड़बड़ होगी। सो आई टुक योर टाइम बट आई ट्राइड कन्विंसिंग यू, प्लीज मेक श्योर technology is allowed to take its own shape, but we can conserve water, preserve things, change our living habits, and that ways we can finance resource wise the requirement of growth. जब ग्रोथ होता है तो सिर्फ अमीर ग्रो नहीं करते, वो गरीबों तक भी जाता है। जब नया नया मोबाइल फोन आया था इंडिया में, लोग कहते थे अमीरों का खिलौना है ये, दिस इज रिच पर्सन्स टॉय मोबाइल फोन, व्हाट विल पुअर्स गेन आउट ऑफ इट। इमेजिन टुडे ऑल द प्लेटफॉर्म बेस्ड वर्क, all the connections with your local money, local vendors is all through mobile phones. So I think let's not undermine the role of technology in even inclusive growth. Of course, we need to move to deep technology ecosystem. इसी पे मैं आपको लेक्चर दे रहा था अभी। तो फंडिंग बढ़ा रहे हैं हम लोग, 32,000 to 35,000 technology startups in India, generative AI startups tripled in India in the last 1 year. Cybersecurity market is growing very fast, and India is ranked tier 1 globally in cybersecurity now. That's a big achievement again for a developing country like us. There is a structural global shift we see, that is demand is driven by AI, cloud, data engineering, cybersecurity. तो अब स्ट्रक्चरल शिफ्ट हो रहा है वर्ल्ड में, इंडिया हैज टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ इट। हम नहीं रहे इसके पार्ट, फिर पिछड़ जाएंगे। आप समझिए, फर्स्ट इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन बाईपास्ड अस, स्टीम इंजन इंडिया में 80 साल लेट आई। सेकंड इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन बाईपास्ड अस, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इंडिया में करीब 70 साल बाद आई, जब दुनिया ने इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इन्वेंट किया। तो पहला इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन स्टीम इंजन पे था, हमारे यहाँ रेलवे 80 साल बाद आया। सेकंड इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पे था, हमारे यहाँ 70 साल बाद आया। थर्ड इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स पे था, हमारे यहाँ करीब 40 साल बाद आया। फोर्थ इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन अब है हमारे पास मौका, इसको ना जाने दें, अदरवाइज हम पिछड़ जाएंगे। तो हमें ध्यान रखना है दैट लेट्स नॉट बिकम archaic, let's remain on the frontier of growth. Then of course we are improving, the skill and ICT diffusion gaps are getting down quickly, and growth is dependent on reskilling and firm adaptation, which we have already discussed. Singapore model का एक case study करते हैं, survey आप इसे read कर सकते हैं, that how they believed in research, innovation and enterprise plans. So in that case, go for focused investment in priority sectors like biomedical, advanced manufacturing. इस बार के बजट में भी है ये बातें। Go for industry and research collaboration through co-funded programs, so that आपका research industrial requirement के हिसाब से हो, and then centralized governance plus predictable funding and talent-centric approach. Go for things where you have basic talent in India, so that we can grow faster and better. Then of course, if we go further, if you look at outcomes, R&D spending is now rising in the last 10 years, but still it is much less than required. ये बहुत कम है इंडिया में, इससे बहुत ज्यादा हमें चाहिए, और ये प्राइवेट सेक्टर को लेना पड़ेगा इनिशिएटिव। गवर्नमेंट ये करेंगे तो एक लेवल से ऊपर लेके नहीं जा पाएंगे। सो आई थिंक प्राइवेट सेक्टर विल हैव टू मेनली टेक द इनिशिएटिव ऑफ हाउ दे आर प्लानिंग टू डेवलप इट, बट दिस इज समथिंग वी नीड टू फोकस अपॉन। देन ऑफ कोर्स डेटा सेंटर्स के अलावा अगेन वे फॉरवर्ड क्या है, तो रिक्लासिफाई बियॉन्ड कमर्शियल बिल्डिंग्स, नेशनल बिल्डिंग कोड एंड ऑल, डेटा सेंटर्स विल नीड न्यू classification, renewable power, easy access to water, digital ecosystem बनाना पड़ेगा, release anonymized public data, anonymized, privacy बिना compromise किए हुए, ensure tax clarity for data hosting, ये tax clarity नहीं है तो बहुत सारे foreign investors इंडिया में नहीं आ रहे। Then go for high skill visas, allow people who are trained abroad to come to India, build industry academia centers, and then go for R&D, scale, mission developed. So this is way forward for using growth opportunity of fourth AI, especially with data centers, fourth industrial revolution, especially with data centers, with generative AI, and with advanced manufacturing. अगर इस पे ध्यान देंगे तो हम ग्रो करेंगे और अपने पुअर्स को भी अपलिफ्ट कर पाएंगे, जंप ले पाएंगे टेक्नोलॉजिकली एक ज्यादा। Transport services contribute 4.5% to gross value added, and they are the foundations for manufacturing, trade and mobility. नहीं तो transport नहीं होगा तो manufacturing कैसे होगी, mobility कैसे होगी. अब अगर हम ports की बात करें, our port capacity for cargo has risen to 1603 million tons, and operational efficiency has improved. The turnaround time is now 30 hours. Inland waterways are now covering 145.5 million tons. Aviation passenger traffic is growing at 9.4%. ये prelims के point of view से सारे data याद रखोगे. ये prelims में example use आएंगे. Air cargo is now softening but still growing, and cost pressures and all are hurting air cargo. We will have to work on reducing tax on air turbine fuel. We will also have to work on more air infrastructure in airlines, with more airports, more airlines to be introduced in India, so that cost inflation can also be controlled. Also, the permissions given to airline have to be faster, and that will also help us in growing better. Rail, of course, remains cost efficient, 50% cheaper than road, but highly subsidized passenger network compromises on logistical cost for freight transportation. Our freight growth is still much lesser than desired. You know, अभी आप देखिए globally ये देखा गया है globally that if you look at bulk transport, rail is to road is 70:30, but in India it is 26:72. 2 is waterways, बाकी का 2% waterways से आता है. तो ये बताता है that Indian railways are hardly getting much of freight charges, freight corridors, freight system, especially the global compared to the global ratio. और इंडिया में अभी रोड ज्यादा डोमिनेंट है बल्क ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में, जो गलत है. इससे इन्वायरमेंटल कॉस्ट बढ़ता है, लॉजिस्टिकल कॉस्ट इंक्रीज होता है, इन्वायरमेंटल कॉस्ट इंक्रीज होता है, और साथ में इट ऑल्सो पुट्स अनड्यू प्रेशर ऑन द रोड्स विच शुड बी यूज्ड मोर फॉर पैसेंजर देन बल्क ट्रांसपोर्ट, and less pressure on railway, and railway runs into losses. So I think India needs a structural reform here. Telecom, we see that it contributes 1.2% of GVA. The entire digital economy is based on telecom. Telephone connection now is around 1.2 billion. So we are touching almost 90%, 95% tele-density now. In fact, tele-density now is around 93% in India. 93%. Internet users are now 101 crore internet users in India. Of course, India has one of the lowest data prices in the world, and one of the lowest, telecom prices in the world. The data consumption has increased to 25 GB per user per month from 62 MB. And we have indigenous 4G and 5G core network. 5G में इंडिया ने वर्ल्ड के साथ एंटर किया, which was a big achievement. National programs plus public R&D is helping in progress. Cyber security, we are already proving quite good over there, but still information networks have to be improved so that common people don't fall under scams in the cyber world. Then if we look at real estate and housing, contribute 7% of GVA, strong linkages with construction and finance. Key reforms are Real Estate Regulation Act, GST, Housing for All, the PM Awas Yojana. Now there is interest subvention in PM Awas Yojana Urban, 3% कम interest देना पड़ता है. Affordable Housing Fund बनाया गया है. तो इससे housing development urban push इंडिया में ज़्यादा है. Smart City Mission, Atal Mission and so on. Atal Rejuvenation Mission and so on. Now we see that post-COVID this has picked up, but still we see that affordable housing is a missing link. Bigger, जो richer houses हैं वो बन रहे हैं, big flats announce हो रहे हैं, affordable house पे उतना ज़्यादा growth अभी देखने को नहीं मिल रहा. If you look at media and entertainment services, the sector size is around 2.5 trillion rupees, and digital mechanism has made sure that 1/3 of the revenue is now coming from digital media like OTT, etc., dish antenna and so on. And that is why content production, VFX, post-production are growing at a very fast pace given the digital dynamics. Of course, India is one of the world's largest content producer. ये orange economy की तरफ हमें इशारा करता है. Audio, visual, film, large scale production, big time, and 9,200 crore rupees in revenue with video subscriptions in India. Advertisement has shifted massively to OTT and mobile. 103 billion rupees worth of animation and VFX, and 232 billion worth of gaming industry with digital payment. So all that is showing high increase with rising income, internet penetration and all in sectors like gaming, VFX, dubbing, content creation, etc. और ये नया इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम खुल रहा है, नए सोर्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट होगा, यहाँ वैल्यू एडिशन ज़्यादा होगी, और जो हमारे बच्चे गरीब तबके से भी हैं, अगर हम उन्हें प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग दे सकें तो उन्हें अपलिफ्ट कर सकते हैं यहाँ से. This is a way to uplift them much better. Orange economy, there is an entire box that been created by survey. Orange economy किसे कहते हैं? Economy driven by creativity, culture and IP based comprising activities where value is driven from ideas, knowledge, artistic and cultural content rather than physical goods. ये याद रख लोगे, ये एक definition हो गया ऑरेंज इकोनॉमी का. ये कहीं भी फॉर्मल डेफिनेशन अभी तक था नहीं, सर्वे ने एक डिफाइन किया है. इकोनॉमी ड्रिवन बाय क्रिएटिविटी, culture and intellectual property based comprising activities where value is driven from ideas, knowledge, artistic and cultural content rather than physical goods. Ideas, knowledge, artistic and cultural content rather than physical goods. That's an orange economy. And the UNCTAD is estimating that they will contribute 0.5 to 0.7% of GDP of countries. जो concerts होते हैं, live concerts, वो बहुत heavy contribution कर रहे हैं, ऐसा सर्वे बोले. और इंडिया में भी ये concert economy बहुत बढ़ रहा है. But यहाँ constraints क्या हैं? Lack of venues, multiple clearances needed, restriction on foreign artists, payments and visas. तो उसके वजह से जो concert economy दुनिया भर में बढ़ रही है और बहुत सारा income generate हो रहा है, वो concert economy इंडिया में उतना ही role play नहीं कर पा रही है. So this is something that India should look for. Single window clearance system, allow heritage venues for events, simplify visa and forex rules for foreign performers, improve urban coordination. Prepare this as mains, optional economics, IAS, mains GS also. Orange economy, what steps can be taken to promote it, what are the restrictions which are restricting things, and so on. Then of course space and ocean services, that's 2% of global share, 8.4 billion is space economy. It is projected to expand to $44 billion by next decade, mainly through launch services, satellite communication. Already India is one of the big players here, at least for other developing countries, earth observation, and navigation. तो इसके अंदर इंडिया के पास काफी chances हैं. Then of course 393 foreign satellites launched in India in the last 10 years for 34 countries. जैसा मैंने कहा कि इंडिया ऑलरेडी एक decent player है और इससे इंडिया ने कुछ 143 million US dollar and 272 million euro भी earn किया है, because we are reliable launch provider for small satellite market and we are cost effective. Also the private ecosystem is now getting commercialized. New Space India Limited revenues are growing to now 2,940 crore. Profitability is improving steadily. So that is showing that India has a good enough content driven space over here. India's satellite data service marked valued at 495 million. तो ये space economy से सारी बात है. अगर कहीं space economy पे कुछ लिखना रहा, आप ये use करके लिख सकते हैं. अगर overall service sector growth पे लिखना रहा, modern services, digitalization, orange economy, space economy, इनको लिख सकते हैं. Old services, contact based services, real estate, tourism, हॉस्पिटैलिटी, उन पे लिख सकते हैं. तो आप अपने दिमाग में अगर ये छोटे छोटे एक एक पेज के नोट्स बना लेंगे तो मेंस के लिए एक तरफ ट्रेडिशनल सर्विसेज, एक तरफ मॉडर्न सर्विसेज. What is the prospect? What can India do? What has already been done? Where is the global situation? And that way, if you make 3-4 headings and make notes, I've already given it to you in that heading only. तुम्हें बस इसे डाउनलोड करके अपने पास रख लेना है. You will be. Survey is giving you ready-made answers here. So we can grow better. Future prospects. Transporter leasing, Earth observation data services, Navic-based application, and India's space policy is an in-space liberalized FDI and shift to a mixed public-private export-oriented model. Similarly, there are ocean services, an emerging sector, Earth system data, climate, geospace, geosphere, all that we can get, and public-private partnerships can play a role in including that. In conclusion, survey says that India's service sector has evolved into a diversified high-value growth engine. High-value services are now technology-driven. Reforms are changing service sector growth in infrastructure, market access, and the growth is now structural and not cyclical. But there are challenges like skill gaps in AI, data, cybersecurity, automation of routine tasks, tighter global mobility because people are not allowed to move so easily, plus rising competition for talent. So adaptation is lagging technological change. So that is something that we will need to do better on. तो करना क्या चाहिए? पहला ITES में reskill the workforce. What should be done पे आ गए अब हम. Solution क्या होना चाहिए? Enable data centers, green energy, regulatory clarity, facilitate high skill visas, promote mission driven industry linked R&D. तो ITES को अगर आपसे सवाल पूछ लें, what steps are required to promote service growth in India in the modern sector? ये ITES के लिए हो गए. Tourism and origin economy, develop hiking trails. Marina policy should be promoted. It is already there in India, promote it more. Single window clearances for live events. Open heritage venues plus ease of foreign artist participation. इसमें आप add कर सकते हैं promoting better intellectual property protection. इसमें एक और add कर सकते हैं developing tier 2, tier 3 cities, training centers. All this you can add to things. And then of course, commercialize and scale up the space and ocean services. Data-driven earth system services should be developed. Sustaining global competitiveness will depend on productivity gains, skill adaptation, regulatory simplification and sector specific capacity building. ये बहुत important है. अगर इंडिया को globally competitive रहना है तो क्या करना है? Productivity gains, rapid skill development, adaptation. कि skills को adapt करना पड़ेगा. हमारे यहाँ IT engineers हैं, but AI driven world में क्या होगा? Then regulatory simplification, ease of permissions, better business development, single window clearances and sector specific capability building. किस sector को कौन सा capability develop करना है? If India works with specialization, India has a massive opportunity in service-led growth. Manufacturing is already waiting to be developed in India. We have a bright future, but we will have to make sure we don't keep sitting down and we don't remain ideologically, in a shell. अभी भी आप देखिए हमारे यहाँ इन चीजों की चर्चा कम और ये चर्चा ज्यादा हो रही है कि बिजनेस को क्यों प्रमोट करें, चोरी ना हो जाए, डेवलपमेंट. सो डेवलपमेंट पे फोकस करें, स्किलिंग पे करें, लोगों को अपलिफ्ट करें. सर्विस कैन बी अ बिग रोल प्लेयर इन दैट. I will meet you next for a discussion on industries here. Thanks a lot for listening to this. God bless you all and keep preparing well. I'll keep supporting. We'll keep moving like this. Thank you. Bye-bye all of you.